No, that's not your job. Live from New York. It's the show that's wishing Billy Wilds a happy elementary graduation. We start today with a man who just doesn't want to be in the spotlight, Aaron Rodgers. He hopped on the Pat McAfee show, as he's evidently contractually obligated to do, to talk about his deal and upcoming year in Pittsburgh, addressing one question I think a lot of us have been wondering ever since he went into the darkness after his final year in Green Bay. Will this year be Aaron's final year? And he says, quote, "I'm pretty sure this is it. That's why we just did a one-year deal. Steelers didn't need to put any extra years on that or anything. What better place to finish than in one of the cornerstone franchises of the NFL with Mike Tomlin and a great group of leadership and great guys in a city that expects you to win." Brew, you were hot about this. You thought we could do the entire A block just on Aaron Rodgers. We won't quite do that, but your reaction?
Well, the reason that I think, and I've said it several times, this is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season of his career is for this reason right here. Aaron Rodgers making it about himself. And I believe him that he didn't say it totally 100% definitively, but my point is, he is a better quarterback, I believe, still than Russell Wilson was last year, than Justin Fields was last year. But it's not about that with me and with Aaron Rodgers. And I think this makes it about Rodgers. The story of next season for the Steelers is all going to be about, this is it. This is Aaron Rodgers' last season. That is going to override everything, unless they're great for, and really have a chance to win the AFC. But most likely, it's just going to be about Aaron Rodgers, and it'll be somewhat of a farewell tour, which I honestly think he deserves. He's one of the best ever, four-time MVP. But it's going to override everything and make it about Rodgers. I thought their best chance to do something this year is if Rodgers just goes in there, plays quarterback, lets Tomlin do his thing, the defense do their thing, and he just does his thing. And now you're going to have this whole big, huge Aaron Rodgers story overriding everything.
Because pretty sure isn't 100% sure. It leaves the door open.
Yeah.
What if he gets hurt? What if he has an amazing year and they make it to the AFC Championship game and he wants to run it back? I get why Aaron Rodgers wants to do this. The Jets thing was a disaster. Some of it bad luck with injury, some of it bad play, some of it just the Jets, right? I mean, it's not a mistake that he said I played 18 years for a cornerstone franchise and then I want to finish with a cornerstone franchise, skipping over that Jets part. So this is a football genius. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. He's a four-time MVP. I get it, why Aaron wants it. He gets to play the Bears again. That's going to be an awesome moment. He gets to open with the Jets. For him, that will be a cool moment. He gets to play the Packers on Sunday Night Football. For him, that will be
maybe.
Right, sure. Assuming health. Yeah, sure. Week 8, assuming health, he will play against the Packers. I get why he wants to do it. For the Steelers, man, it's just a one-year deal with the devil. Best case scenario is what?
The best case scenario is 11 wins.
11?
I don't think that's going to happen. But I think, to be fair, the best case scenario, I think, is 11 wins. If we're talking about absolute best,
you win
and
a
they
playoff
make the
game.
Conference championship game.
Right,
That is a top 1% outcome.
Right, so Tomlin's playoff drought gets snapped at 9 years. You win double-digit games, and Rodgers retires. And then what?
Exactly.
So I get it from Aaron's perspective. I really do. The Pittsburgh side's the part that's confusing here.
Go ahead, Nick.
So, listen, I first just want to level set here because we do this a lot with Aaron. He is not a credible narrator. And I think it is important to, remind the audience, or if people weren't watching the interview, right before or right after, I can't remember, he made this announcement. He also said that he relishes the day he no longer is in the spotlight because he doesn't want to be in the spotlight, and he's only in the spotlight because he plays football, which is a remarkable thing for this player in particular to have said when, in the last few years, he has been like, you know what would be fun? Being the host of Jeopardy. But then, you know what also I would like to consider? Being the vice president of the United States. You know how every NFL player has to do weekly media obligations? What if I also did 3 dozen of the longest podcasts you've ever heard in your life? And by the way, what if I hired a film crew to make a documentary about me because I don't want the spotlight?
That I released during the season.
And so I do understand. He is now maybe for his, because he had very public relationships previously with famous women. And now he seems to be in a very private relationship. So maybe that's his significant other doesn't want it, or he learned his lesson from that. But it is, so the relationship stuff, I can be like, oh, you changed on it. But in the last 365 days, he has begged for the spotlight, not for just like, I've got to play football on TV. And so the reason I mention that is, if you will say, I relish not being in the spotlight, right after you said this is going to be my last year, I might take them both with a grain of salt. But I think your point is the more interesting one, which is, what is this? I'm going to show you 2 graphics back to back. Which graphic are the Steelers really focused on changing? It is the playoff drought ones, which is how long they have gone without a playoff win. You can just roll, years without a playoff win, that they are on there. You know what I mean? The 8th longest. Then consecutive playoff losses graphic. That is, they are tied for the longest with Miami. Don't go to the next ones yet, Dust. It seems to me, Brew, like the Steelers' franchise goal is to remove themselves from those 2 graphics, when I think their goal should be trying to change what these 2 graphics look like. Most Super Bowls won by any franchise in league history. Here is what that graphic currently looks like. They're tied with the Patriots.
Right.
The goal should be, how do we get it to where we're not tied? Most Super Bowls been to by any team in franchise history. They are tied with those teams, for second place. How do we get alone in second place? By the way, shout out the Chiefs making both graphics. What a run by Mahomes.
It's a great run. Big if true.
And so, you understand what I mean? Those are not the exact, the decisions you make to break a playoff losing streak versus the decisions you make to try to win another Super Bowl are not always the same decision.
Right. Where I disagree with both of you is that I understand why the Steelers are doing it. I don't care if they trot out Mason Rudolph. They're not going to be one of the 5 worst teams in the league. I mean, Tomlin might get a Mason Rudolph QB team to 500 or
you got
a game over 500.
Duck Hodges,
8 or 9 wins, right?
Sure.
So they know that we're not tanking. Obviously, that's not in our DNA. That's not in Tomlin's DNA. And I firmly believe they believe that with Aaron Rodgers in there, and I'm sure they know he's not the MVP Aaron Rodgers, but just Aaron Rodgers being better than Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, we have a shot. I'm sure they feel like, look, the Chiefs are phenomenal. They can't make the Super Bowl every year. Somebody's going to trip them up. We play well in the AFC North. We can beat Baltimore. We can beat Cincinnati. Yeah, so I firmly believe they think, look, we're not the favorites. We got to catch a little lightning in the bottle. Stuff has to break our way. But with Rodgers, we really think we can win the AFC. I feel like they are trying to go for the Super Bowl, and certainly they went out and got the best quarterback available for them.
They got the best quarterback available on a 1-year deal, right? I mean, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, you can make some arguments there in terms of long-term, but for a 1-year deal, a mercenary deal, yes. And I agree with you. Like Aaron Rodgers said, he's like, the goal is to play 20 great games. He said that during the interview today. So that's the first thing, because the first time he spoke as a member of the Steelers, he said, I'm just taking it one day at a time. I don't want to talk about Super Bowls or playoff droughts. I just want to take it one mini camp practice at a time. So this was the first time he at least acknowledged, the goal here is 20 great games out of him. I got my doubts. I will just say this. He's one of the most talented players that has ever played the position. He influenced, his style of play influenced Mahomes.
Yes.
It influenced Caleb Williams. Even as a Bears guy, I used to love watching him play out of respect. I am just glad that this is going to be worth our time. This is going to
What do you mean?
The Jet stuff wasn't worth our time. The vice presidential headlines and the podcast appearances when he was hurt or playing on a bad team or on a losing team, this is going to be compelling football theater. Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers playing Burrow, playing Lamar, playing the Bears, playing the Steelers, playing the Lions. Playing the Packers, rather. That's going to be interesting.
And I would say this. Last year with Fields, they were one-dimensional. With Russ, to a large degree, they were predictable and one-dimensional. Their best offense with Russ was just the moon ball. Like, you know what I mean? They didn't move the ball consistently. Rodgers does, and I'm saying they're going to have a losing season. But I'm just saying from a Steelers standpoint, they can look at him and say, oh, we'll be able to do this, we'll be able to do that. Our defense will be strong. We can have a good season.
Before we move on, Dust, I don't know if we have the Steelers schedule that we can throw it on the screen. I think there it is. I think you guys are being too optimistic. Like
he has them having a
well,
losing
I'm
record.
saying
but
I'm saying from their
so then maybe I think
well, they believe, right? The Steelers thing is the standard is the standard. Yeah. They have never had a losing record. That means if they're 4-3 heading into that Packers game, it's a huge deal. That game's a huge deal.
So I understand that game will feel like a massive event. The point that I am making is, first of all, I do not know that I think next year Aaron Rodgers is better than Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, because I do not know that I feel that last year he was better than those two players. Last year, Aaron, when he got hot, when the games, when the Jets were eliminated.
A lot of garbage time stats.
And there is the ephemeral part of quarterbacking, which is taking bullets for your teammates, leadership, all of that stuff that I just think he is wildly lacking at.
I agree.
And has gotten actually worse at as time has gone on, because it is so hard for great players to recognize when they're not great anymore. So it's because Mike Williams wasn't on the red line.
Sure.
Right. And so for all, like, do I find it on the board that the Steelers are 1-3 going into their bye? Absolutely. Do I? Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't think 3-1 isn't on the board?
I can't say
on the board.
I can't say it's not on the board. It would not be my pick, and I think that the Steelers are lying to themselves if they think that 12 months from now they are going to say, man, glad we did that. You know what I mean? Like that
I do agree.
That was, and so I understand why Aaron wants a final chapter, and by the way, he's earned it. And you know what I mean? He's not taking anybody hostage. They waited for him. They wanted him. That's fine. I just think I think 6-11 is so much more likely than 11-6. And 11-6 isn't actually even worth that much if it's a wild card berth and getting cracked in round 1 by Josh Allen.
Do you agree that if there's a farewell tour, I kind of feel like that takes away, that lessens their chances of having a great year?
I feel like there's not really farewell tours in the NFL the way there is the NBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I'm not
NBA
saying it's a celebration, before every game, but just I think it'll be, the media and other players exchanging jerseys, maybe things like that.
That's going to happen anyway. The guy is exhausting. He's like, why are you asking me about my last game against the Packers? What are you talking about, man?
Here's where I do think it could actually be damaging. If they're better than I think and better than you think, but not great, and the final 3 weeks of the season, it's like to fight to get into the playoffs, and that is walking in lockstep with, well, if they win, they can make the playoffs, but if they lose, it's the last game of this guy's career. Like that to me is, but I don't think they're going to have to deal with that. All right, let's go to basketball and what we saw from Tyrese Haliburton, which was sports heroism. He suffered a torn Achilles, obviously, in Game 7. Suffered a calf strain in Game 5, played Game 6, and then the Achilles pops early in Game 7. He already had the surgery. This is the new thing, the immediate Achilles surgery. Tatum did it. He now did it as well. He wrote a lengthy Twitter post, and here's a piece of it. At 25, I've already learned that God never gives us more than we can handle. I know I'll come out on the other side of this a better man and a better player. And this, to me, is the most noteworthy part of the whole passage. And honestly, right now, torn Achilles and all, I don't regret it. I'd do it again and again after that to fight for this city and my brothers for the chance to do something special. He also went on in a really kind of heartbreaking way to apologize to the city, which was heartbreaking is the word I would use. Obviously, nobody who's like, damn straight needed that apology. But Brew, this echoed to me your sentiment yesterday to a degree, so your reaction.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all hate that he got hurt, but there's closure at least. If he had not played and they lost say it went exactly the same way, they win game 6, they lose a close game 7, but he doesn't play at all, he's definitely feel like, man, should I have, if I'm out there, we probably win that series. Could we have won it? Not to mention he would have gotten criticized by a lot of media, fans, the whole 9 yards. I thought his letter or his tweet was perfect. He said he didn't regret playing. He said he understands there's a long road ahead of him, but he's up for the challenge. And he thanked the city, the fans, his teammates. Like, this was perfect. He said he's not feeling sorry for himself. And look, I'm going to say this. Assuming, and I am making this assumption, that he comes back same player, essentially. If he does that, he will be one of the faces of the league. He'll never be, I don't think, the face. But he'll be,
because he has now
Karl
captured
Malone
the
and
imagination.
Yes, like first of all, he's got the game. He makes his teammates better, so his teams usually are good. He's got the swagger. He talks trash. He's clutch. And now he's got this story that everyone, except, teams that are playing against them, everyone can get behind and cheer for. So I do think he'll be that. This will end up, like he said, this will end up down the road maybe being a good thing for him.
Yeah, it'll be a chapter in his story, and I hadn't thought about it through that context, but he's probably the starting point guard of Team USA in 2028, coming off this injury over Brunson, Cade Cunningham, Ja Morant, and then he gets that stage as part of his comeback tour. So I'm with you. This will be a chapter in a story, and he captivated the nation in the basketball world. He also, while I loved the post, and it was incredibly vulnerable and honest, and I agree with you, heartbreaking, and what happened to him was a sports tragedy in Game 7, it was also the only decision a professional athlete can make in that spot.
Yes.
Every one of them would do it, which is why so many people who do our job, like, he was accused of being afraid during the NBA Finals broadcast at halftime. Some people were saying he should not have played and risked it. That's insane. Every athlete, as I understand it, would risk next season for 48 minutes at a title. And that's exactly what he did. Imagine if he sits out. The doubt that he lives with, the criticism from the media, the side eyes from his teammates. Who would have ever made that decision? And it's such an unreasonable thing to even put into the debate culture. Of course he was going to play, and then it was bad luck.
And I'll push back a tiny bit in this regard. If he were a player who this was the final year of his rookie contract.
Different.
And had not, had not signed, like he was a second-round pick who blew up.
I'm saying
like,
in his spot.
Hadn't been paid.
And hadn't been
paid.
paid.
Look at Isaiah Thomas with the Lakers.
Right,
or the Celtics.
So but because he was in year one of a 5-year, $255 million deal, it removed, for selfishly as an athlete, it's a job. You need to provide for yourself and your family, and that's first and foremost. Once that's taken care of, you are part of a team, and the point you're alluding to is one I fervently believe in, which is for the Indiana Pacers, Game 7 was worth more, and Game 6 and 7 was worth more championship equity than the 2026 season. You know what I mean?
Like 2026, 27, 28 season, man.
Because you're
all
right.
of them.
Because you're right
those
there.
Times they might be in the mix.
I mean, the odds are Tyrese Haliburton never plays in the NBA Finals again.
And
those are the odds.
It's certainly would be the
odds, but he's got a shot.
Certainly,
of course he has a shot.
But we're saying the same thing. Like, this was more. Though the chance to win by just winning one more game,
correct,
as opposed to having climbed the entire mountain. But the other, I'm going to kind of go more, I don't know, bigger picture on this to a degree.
Big brain?
Not big brain. It's kind of almost sentimental. It's the type of thing Wilds would make fun of me for. Because I brought up this quote a lot.
I'll fill that role. I got you.
But it's this Cormac McCarthy quote that I read like 4 years ago that really, for me, has helped me deal with any sadness in my life that is short of a death of a friend or a family member, which is you never know what worse luck your bad luck saved you from. So you never know when, on a very simplistic level, if the speeding ticket you got actually prevented you from getting T-boned in a car accident. You never know. And I was thinking about that with what was pre-Achilles injury. Haliburton this postseason was known as this unfathomably clutch killer. This guy who, even when he wasn't playing well, could just, in the final minute of a game, be the calmest, most confident guy. And if he had sat out and watched his team lose and his Achilles is totally healthy, is he no longer that guy? Does that doubt in his mind? And again, I'm not saying he is or he isn't.
His own mind.
His own mind.
Our perception.
Not our. I'm saying there is a part of what makes you clutch is you believe you're clutch. You know what I mean?
The willingness to take the shot.
Right. One of the reasons Tiger never missed a 5-footer for 15 years was because he didn't miss the first one. And then after that, it was just like, I'm not going to miss it. And we talk about, oh man, he suffered a career-altering physical injury. And the point that I truly believe is, it is on the board that by not playing, he could have suffered a career-altering mental injury. Of the doubt and the question, I don't know that he would have, but like you said, you wouldn't have had closure. So this didn't play out the way anyone wanted it to, but it played out the way it almost had to if this was going to happen. And the fact that he, at least in that post, seems devastated while being at peace with the decision, I think is the best we could hope for.
And some of the greatest news is he got his money, like you said.
Yes.
If he had not been paid, now Durant got paid after, but he's not Kevin Durant.
No. And I do think the math would fairly be different if he had $3 million in career earnings with nothing guaranteed coming up.
Yeah, I'm saying anyone in his spot, as the most clutch guy, as the point guard, as the leader, with the contract, with everything, anyone in his spot would have made the decision that he made.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.